You know it's gonna be a good one when we start off like this. What's going on, everyone? My name is Talon Sai and you are watching Sunday GUNDAY. I hope you're all having a great Sunday so far. In a previous video, we took a look at the Tavor X95, which is sometimes still being debated as the future of combat style rifles. Now, when I first heard about and saw today's subject, I was like, whoa. Okay, now we're moving into Star Wars-like future era weapon design. That initial shock was really just a reaction to how this gun looks aesthetically, and I'm still kind of unsure about what I think about it, so we're out here to put it to the test today. So let's dive right into yet another new offering from IWI, the Tavor TS12. The TS12 is a gas-regulated bullpup shotgun with a crazy design that feeds from one of 3 individual magazine tubes which can rotate underneath the barrel. The tubes can hold 4 3-inch shotgun shells or 5 2 3/4-inch shells, giving you the maximum overall capacity of 15 rounds plus 1 additional round in the chamber. This thing also has a unique feature that automatically loads a round into the chamber once a loaded magazine tube is rotated into position with an empty chamber. These tubes can also be fed and unloaded from either side of the shotgun. There are 4 sling attachment points found around the shotgun, M-LOK compatible rails up front, and a continuous Picatinny rail on top where I have a Trijicon MRO mounted up. This has a compatibility to accept Benelli and Beretta choke tubes if you wish to do that, and they claim that this should have the reliability expected of all IWI products. I've reviewed quite a few of their offerings recently and none of them have let me down so far, so I'm hoping this one follows suit. Now, since this thing is a pretty jarring thing to be looking at, I will also give you these numbers to hopefully put its size into perspective a little bit better. The TS12 has an 18.5-inch barrel, an overall length of just 28.34 inches, and of course it's a bit chunky, coming in at 9 pounds. Now, this experience should be fairly interesting, so I'm actually going to show you guys my first hands-on with trying to load this thing. Like I mentioned, you can feed these tubes on either side, so I have a feed tube right here, as well as on the reverse side. You use this little push button lever in the front here to rotate these tubes. This design is just crazy to me. So to start this test, I have some double-aught buckshot here. These are 2 3/4-inch shells, and I should be able to just pop them in right like that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in that tube, so that should be loaded now. I'll flip this over and try the other side while we're at it. We got 1, 2, 3. Now the tube on top where this thing is going to be feeding from is still empty, so I guess I'll press this, rotate that, and now we have an empty tube right here. So again, 1, 2. Now that I think about it, I guess with this size, can actually hold 5 shells. 5 in that tube. Put another one in the back side here. Rotate this again. Get one more loaded up into that top tube. Now I have 15 rounds in here. I could put another one in the chamber, but we'll save that for later. There is a push button safety right here on the actual grip and charging handle on this side over here. Now, I did just throw this MRO on here. I'm standing back here from about 20 yards and we'll see what I can do with this thing on some steel to start. All right, gun is on safe. Did that load one? It did not. All right, so I'll lock the bolt back with that. Now, rotate this. Okay, and now it auto-loaded around right there. I definitely saw one go in. Now, let's see what this thing is all about. Hopefully this red dot is on. Woo. Anticipating the shot there, I got a jam. go. All right, now it locked open. Turn that tube. Now I should have another 5 ready to go. Locked open there. Turn the tube again. Here we go, 5 more. Oh my God, dude. All right, let's talk about this thing. All right, guys, the TS12. I don't even really know where to start with this thing, but I will say, I like the name. Wasn't named after me, but I appreciate the name. I guess we'll talk about the ergonomics. This is a Bullpup style shotgun. It's very similar to the Tavor X95, which I reviewed. And for that platform, I didn't really care for the ergonomics because it's a rifle, and like I said in that video, a lot of people didn't like that I was saying this, but I prefer more of an AR style platform. Now when it comes to a tactical shotgun, something that I don't really shoot all that often, I'm actually okay with the different ergonomics for a platform like this. When shooting a rifle, I've trained my muscle memory and everything to be very fast, quick, proficient, accurate at longer distances. And with a shotgun, I feel like you can be a little bit more relaxed like that. I don't need to be super fast. There's no magazine button here because this thing is just completely different than a rifle. So this is me starting on a completely new platform and just trying to get used to something as weird as this thing is. So the ergonomics on this are not bad. I mean, it's comfortable. I'm shooting double-aught buck and it has a pretty good kick to it, but the pad on the back here is very cushy so far. If I would compare this to things like I've reviewed in the past, like a KSG by Keltec or even the UTAS-15, which I also did a review on, those things were thumping my shoulder after a while. Hopefully that's not the case with this today, but we have a lot of rounds to shoot through this thing. Now I guess I will continue from the top. You have this massive Picatinny rail here. Trijicon MRO back from about 20 to 25 yards there. Seemed to be on with that double-aught buckshot. If I zoom in on the front here, you will notice that there is an H and an L setting, and you can actually get to this on either side of the shotgun. What this is going to do is adjust the gas system in here. So if for some reason you're running into reliability issues with whatever length shell that you're running, I of course have 2 3/4 today, and that's all that I brought out with me, just a bunch of varying loads. They say that for 2 3/4 inch shells, you should run this thing on the low setting, and if you bump up to something like a 3-inch shell, that if you run into reliability issues, you can bump it up to high. So this is something that you can sort of play with and tune to get the reliability that you're looking for out of this thing. And I did have that one hang up there with the first or second magazine tube, but I believe that that could be because this thing is brand new. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that though as we keep shooting this thing. Maybe I will have to change that, but I don't think I will. Now what else do we have on here? We have the M-LOK slots up here. If you want to run a light, a laser, or any kind of M-LOK accessory, you could mount those all along the side here. Up front there are 2 slots, top and bottom. You do have the charging handle coming standard on the left side here, but it looks like you can actually swap that over to the other side. And then we're moving down a little bit further to the controls of this thing. Now again, this is my first time out here on the range, so bear with me as I walk through this. This button right here will close that bolt for me. If I rack this now, it's not going to stay open until I put my finger on this lever back here. That will keep the bolt locked open. That way when I have this thing loaded up, all I have to do is press this button up here in front of the trigger, inside the trigger guard, rotate this magazine tube, and then if there is a round in there, it will actually auto close that for me. I actually really like that you can load this thing from both sides, so that is going to be good for any left-handed shooters out there, but it's also just kind of convenient. I can cram shells in this side. If I'm holding it like this, I can cram them in the other side as well. And then one thing that I did notice is that when you are moving this magazine tube, you want to press this button and start the rotation, but then you actually want to take your finger off of there. That way, as you're rotating it, it clicks into place just like that. I believe the fastest way to do this as a right-handed shooter is going to be turning this thing clockwise. I haven't experimented with this yet, but if I'm shooting quickly like this, I put my finger on there. All I have to do is sort of rotate my wrist like that, then I have a new magazine tube loaded. Now I mentioned that you want to remove your finger from this button because once you press that, it will allow it to rotate. If you keep your finger on there, you can actually overshoot a little bit like that, and now it's not going to lock into place. I don't think it's going to chamber that next round, and you'll actually have to rotate it back until it does that. So this entire platform is obviously very new to me and anyone else out there too. I'm definitely going to have to play with this thing and shoot it a bunch more to see what I actually think about this thing in the end. Now, one more thing that I will mention is that IWI on their website say that the TS12 offers an innovative and versatile compact, sporting, or home defense shotgun that is optimized for whatever application you may need this for. So the thing that obviously caught my attention there was them referring to this as a sporting shotgun. I could only imagine taking this to like a sport shoot. There are quite a few sporting clay areas around me that I could go and test this thing out. I'm not exactly sure how this would do in the accuracy department, but I could just imagine having this thing loaded to the gills with 16 shells and just blasting through clays. This thing is just, I don't know. So far, I would say that this is right up my alley. Although I'm not a big tactical shotgun guy, I think this thing is going to be a lot of fun today. So let's load it up. We'll head out here and start shooting this thing a little bit more. All right, guys, this should be a pretty fun one. We're looking at the targets from my perspective now. I wouldn't be surprised if I did a magazine tube dump, if I could get one of these to fall over, but we'll see what happens with this double-aught buck. Again, I have 15 rounds loaded up in the 3 different tubes up here. I will press this to put whichever tube I want to feed first on top. Now, if I rack this, you'll notice that it is not chambering another round, so I will press this button here. You heard that round now pop back. Now we're ready to go. Now let's put the hurting on this steel. Hopefully not my shoulder. Five, rotate. So there I did exactly what I said not to do. I think I held my finger on that magazine button a little bit too long. So now I'll have to drop this again. There we go. Get that tube that I messed up on. All right, I'm starting to get the hang of it. All right, let's see if I can run a full 16 without any issues this time. Again, I think I'm getting the hang of it now. All right. Now, another cool thing that I'm going to be able to do with a shotgun like this, obviously if you have a rotating magazine tube, you can load different types of shells in each tube. So first up here I have some standard buckshot, and then when I rotate it, we'll be on double-aught buck. Rotate it one more time, and we have slugs in this thing now. So we're getting a little bit of everything with this setup right here. Let's see if it runs all of these reliably. Whew. Double. Now the slugs. Now we got some fun targets set up. Camera's gonna be sticky, isn't it? You guys know this wouldn't be complete without some sort of a mag dump, so we got some targets mixed in here. We're gonna do 1-5, 1-4, 1-4 as fast as possible to finish this off. only about 100 rounds. I think I'm running that thing pretty well. All right guys, back for some of my final initial thoughts on the TS12. I severely underestimated this gun. I really didn't think it was gonna be all that fun to shoot. I thought it might take a toll on my shoulder, and man was I completely wrong. Like I mentioned, I only put about 100 shells through it so far, and I should have brought a lot more with me because I'm really enjoying shooting this thing, and I could easily put another couple hundred through this thing if I had the ammo with me. So just after coming off of shooting the Tavor X95, I think that the ergonomics on this are, like I said, they're just feeling a little bit better for me. Since the entire platform is new and sort of unconventional, you really have to relearn everything. So I'm taking more of a liking on learning a completely new platform like this, as opposed to kind of adapting to a new platform with similar controls. It did take a little bit to sort of understand some of the actual functional controls here, like dropping the bolt, things like that. But as you can see by the end there, I think I'm running this thing pretty decently for just having my hands on it today. The recoil impulse is surprisingly soft. I'm feeling no issues with my shoulder right now. Like I mentioned, they do have a pretty substantial butt pad on here, but the way the recoil system in this thing is set up, being a Bullpup, it just has a lot of good things going for it. As you saw with me shooting there, I didn't take my own advice, and I must have been riding this button a little bit too long, so there's small things like that that you might have to get used to. Again, when you're out on target and you are switching to the next magazine tube, you just want to bump this button up here in order to get that thing starting to rotate. You'll hear that click, and then you want your finger off of there, because as you bring it around, it's going to click into place. If you ride that button a little bit too long and you have it held that whole time, right there I spun the magazine tube a little bit too far past. So it might have chambered around there and it might have went off, but it's not going to chamber the next one. So instead of rotating it back like this, you'll actually have to continue rotating and then get onto the next magazine tube. So again, little intricacies like that are going to take some time to get used to, but just after about 100 rounds, I'm starting to dig this thing a lot. Now I'll try to show you this trigger, although I'm not sure how much information you're going to take away from this. So here is the trigger shoe. It's curved, sort of looking like a 1911 style trigger, but it is all plastic. There's a little bit of a take up back to the wall. Again, feeling very plasticky, but you'll pull through that. Get sort of a chunky, clunky style brake, but it's not the worst thing ever. When it comes to shotguns, especially something like this, I can live with that. You guys saw me anticipating some of the shots there when this thing wasn't going off when I thought it was going to. And for the most part, you're gonna have that, especially when you're shooting some heavy-duty, hard-hitting loads. But I was actually pretty surprised with the accuracy of this thing. I didn't miss any of the bottles today, so filming this video went pretty damn smoothly. I was able to get on target and stay on target for quick follow-up shots. You don't have to pump this thing. This is actually one of the first semi-auto shotguns that I've reviewed here on the channel. You may have seen some others in the past, but this one is the first one that's getting its full dedicated review. And again, I didn't really have high expectations for this thing. Just looking at it on the surface, it looks big and clunky, and I'm really not a fan of tactical shotguns and the roles that they play. For the most part, any shotgun that I own is just for fun, doing what you saw here today. But this actually seems a little bit more practical than I thought it was going to be. For those of you out there who may use a shotgun as a home defense, if you are up for trying out a new platform, I think this might be one to look at. It's got a ton of really cool things going on for it, and like I said, I really wish I brought more ammo out here so I could keep shooting this thing a little bit more. So I believe that's all that I have on the TS12 for now. This is going to be one of those guns that I definitely bring back to the range with me. That's not always the case with guns that I review here on the channel, but this one was a hell of a lot of fun and I wish I could keep shooting it some more. So if you guys have any questions on the TS12, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you guys have some ideas for a future video. I think it would be really cool to do a massive tactical shotgun video. KSG versus a UTAS 15 versus a TS12 versus a DP12, something like that. Maybe I will have to round all of those options up and bring you guys a huge tactical shotgun video. So if that's something that you want to see, leave a like on this video, let me know in the comments down below. And if you are new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.